Today, we're going to be talking about getting your financial house in order. I know that this is crucial. This is critical for you. Look, being wealthy doesn't necessarily and inherently make you a man, but having capital, building up your resources, building up your financial equity will help you do the things that will make you more of a man. It will help you engage with your community. It'll help you be more engaged at home. It'll help you bring products and goods and services to market that are going to serve you and those who you're trying to help and serve in some capacity. So this is a good thing. This is an important thing. And it's frustrating for a lot of guys who have not had money in their lives because of how challenging it is and how consuming it is. When you're broke, that's all you're thinking about. All you're thinking about is, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to make my living? And you don't have the capacity physically, mentally, emotionally for anything else more pressing than that. So today I've got maybe 10 tips here. I just wrote some things down. I am maybe a little bit more qualified to talk about this than your average Joe because I spent about 9 years as a financial advisor. Now, I'm not going to give you any specific financial tips. These are general tips that I think will help you if you adhere to these principles and these strategies and incorporate them in your life. So let's just get right into this without a whole lot of other introduction or beating around the bush. Let's just get into it. Number one is commit to being wealthy. Guys, if you want to build wealth in your life, you have to commit to building wealth in your life. You have to commit to being wealthy. You have to commit to having money, and you have to reconcile the idea that just because you're wealthy doesn't inherently make you bad or greedy or a pig or any number of demeaning titles that people like to place on those who have built wealth. This is it's just an increasing problem in society. As I see so many people who villainize those who have managed to build wealth. They talk about they're greedy, they're pigs, they're hoarding money, it comes at the expense of everybody else, and that just isn't the case. Wealthy people, at least the overwhelming majority of wealthy people, have built that wealth through hard work, through ingenuity, through creativeness, and offering a product, a good, or a service to the market in exchange for money. Money is simply a medium of exchange. That's all it is. And if you believe that building wealth or the wealthy are inherently wrong or evil, et cetera, then you're at the same time closing yourself off to building wealth in your life. And you will potentially even subconsciously sabotage yourself and keep yourself from building the wealth that you say you want, but deep down you can't seem to reconcile. And there's this conflict between what you want and what you think you're supposed to have or what people will think of you because you built wealth. So look, I've had both. I've been poor in my life. I've been pacing around in my life in a backyard wondering how I'm going to make the mortgage payment. My businesses almost failed. In fact, my financial planning practice early on was really, really struggling. And I've been in positions where I've had moderate levels of wealth and been able to do the things that I want to do. And I'm telling you that it's better to have money. You can donate more to charity. You can be more engaged with your family. You can invest in causes that are important to you. You can build goods and services. You have the emotional and mental freedom to be able to focus on more pressing issues than wondering how you're going to put food on the table or clothes on your back. It's always better to have money. And people will say, well, money makes you bad. Or you hear things like money is the root of all evil. Well, money is a magnifier. So it's only going to make you more of what you already are. So if you have some thoughts in your mind that aren't virtuous or moral, then money is going to enhance those thoughts and also give you the ability potentially to even act more so on those thoughts. But if you're a moral human being with a good moral compass and a code of conduct in which you operate and a heart to serve and a desire to lead in your communities and your businesses and your family, then money is going to more effectively help you do that. So the first step to building any measurable amount of wealth in your life is to commit to doing it. And then we can move into these next few steps that I have for you. But if you don't have the mental commitment, then you'll give up, you'll sabotage yourself unknowingly, and you just won't build the wealth that you would like to have, that most people would like to have. All right, number 2 is pay off your debt. Just pay off your debt. It's amazing to me how much debt that we collectively have amassed, from student loans to medical bills to car payments to mortgages, personal loans. It's absolutely ridiculous. And what has happened is we collectively have normalized debt. It is not normal and not healthy to owe somebody else something. Maybe for a certain period of time, maybe you leverage a loan in order to secure assets that you can build and grow a business, or to secure a home, but ultimately you need to pay that thing off as quickly as possible. The other thing that we've run into is mistaking the notion that you can afford something with the notion that you can afford the payment. And those are different things. You might be able to afford $300 or $400 in your budget, but you can't necessarily afford $50,000, $60,000 on that new truck that you want. And I've noticed in my life, as I have continued to enslave myself in debt, it's destructive. It destroys capital. It destroys resources, not those who's collecting debt from you, but for you. It destroys your peace of mind. It destroys your sovereignty, because this debt's just looming and hanging over your shoulder, and you can't think about anything else. So number one, commit to being wealthy. Number two, pay off the debt. And that takes a high level of commitment. That means that you're going to have to stop spending on things that you normally would spend on, that you're going to have to forego a couple of opportunities or a couple of vacations or a couple of new purchases, because debt becomes the number one priority. Get that stuff paid off as quickly as possible. I happen to like Dave Ramsey's debt Snowball. He talks quite a bit about, which is to take your lowest debt balance and apply all your discretionary income towards that one first, not distribute it evenly across all debt, just the lowest debt balance first. Once that's paid off, take the payment and your discretionary income, roll it to the next highest debt balance, and then move from there. That, to me, based on my experience with hundreds and hundreds of clients in my financial planning practice over 8 to 9 years, seems to be not only the best financially when you look at the numbers, but there's a lot of considerations that go well beyond the math, and having that debt paid off that way in a debt snowball fashion is the best in my experience. So pay that debt off. Number 3, do a weekly budget. This is nothing new. A lot of people talk about a budget. A lot of people talk about making sure that you're tracking your income and expenses and where the money's going and where it's coming from. All of that is wonderful. But if you're only doing it once a month, it's just not enough. Too much happens between the beginning of the month and the end of the month for you just to focus on this thing one time in a 30-day time frame. I would say do a weekly meeting and make sure it's scheduled. I would recommend that you do it the same day every single week, so you get in the habit and you get in the routine of saying, okay, Monday evening is our debt, is where I go in and I budget, or Thursday morning, or whatever it is for you. But it's gotta be a weekly meeting. And so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a spreadsheet, or you're gonna take a tool that you might use like Mint or your banking software or QuickBooks or Intuit, any of these that you might use, and you're going to go in and you're going to categorize. I happen to use QuickBooks, syncs directly with my bank. And then what I'll do is I'll go in there and I'll say, okay, well, here's my expenses, and it automatically classifies them. If it doesn't know what it is, it asks me what category I should place it in. I start categorizing these. It starts learning, which is nice, because that means my budgeting meeting every week is quicker and quicker because it starts to identify what it is. The other thing that it's helped me do is not spend so much, simply because I don't want to categorize it and I don't want to go through there. And that is the value of doing it weekly, is because it's on the top of your mind, you're more aware of what's going on, you're more aware of your income and expenses. It's on the forefront of your mind, and it's been said that what gets measured gets improved. So if you want to lose weight, of course you've got to work out, but you should also jump on the scale. If you want to pay off debt, it's not always comfortable to know that you've amassed $100,000 or more of debt, but you've got to know that in order to pay it off. If you want to know where your income and expenses are going and all your money seems to be slipping away from, well, then you've got to look at it and figure out what exactly is happening to your income, what is happening with your expenses, and where all your money is going on a weekly basis. Now, number 4 is very much on the same line, and this is going to apply more if you're married, you have a partner, somebody that you're managing the money jointly, and that somebody is spending out of the same account as you, and that is a money meeting. Now, this is separate than a budget, although the budget could be inclusive of that. A money meeting is sitting down with your wife or your partner, your significant other, talking with them about any upcoming expenses, upcoming income, where she is spending money, where you're spending money, if there's any unforeseen events. This is Christmas time we're talking about here, so usually there's some extra spending and trying to figure out like what are we spending money on, and just getting on the same page. It's very, very important. We have talked about the importance of communication in this podcast at length, and it is amazing to me how many husbands and wives do not communicate about this stuff. Typically what happens is the husband takes care of the financials and the wife doesn't really know what's going on. So she may be spending money, the husband isn't including her, but then he gets mad for her spending money and she doesn't know how much money they have or how much money she should spend. And so they're like, there's this conflict. The way that you figure out and fix that conflict is you communicate with each other. It's that simple. Just communicate with each other and talk about what income is coming in, what expenses are going out, what unforeseen events may we have that are coming up, like Christmas, or little Timmy's got to get some braces. These are the things that you need to be aware of. Get on the same page. And also, there's accountability built into this. If my wife, for example, is spending money and she doesn't think I'm looking at it, there's no reckoning there. And maybe reckoning is not the right word to say, but there's no level of accountability there. And vice versa. If I'm just spending money and she never gets an opportunity to look at it, I can be reckless with what I'm doing. So I prefer to allow her to see and explain to her what it is I'm doing and how I'm using the money to better our situation. And also, I want her to know what she's doing and how her decisions are bettering or worsening our situation. And that tip number 4 about having a money meeting with your significant other is a very good step in that direction. Number 5. Now, when we're talking about building wealth, a lot of us talk about, paying off debt and investing in the stock market or businesses or real estate or whatever it is we're going to do. And we're going to get into that. But one commonly overlooked area is to develop valuable skills. That is an investment in yourself, and investing in yourself in developing and building valuable skills that can be traded in the market for money is going to return dividends to you. It is such a valuable thing to do. So when we're talking about investments and we're talking about businesses and real estate and the stock market and exotics and everything else, we shouldn't overlook investing in ourselves and building up valuable skills that we can then go out into the market and utilize, and people will pay us for those goods and services. So if you need to go to a conference, or you need to pick up a new designation or certification, or you need to learn a new trade, it's okay to invest in yourself. Now, be very, very careful about going into debt. I'm not going to say there's good debt and bad debt, but I am going to say there's prudent debt. There's decisions that you can make where it's prudent that maybe you do go into a little debt in order to invest in a valuable skill or resource that you can then utilize to return that money back to you. Make sure that you're developing valuable skills. And along the same lines, number 6 is look to your current situation. You may be able to get a promotion. You might be able to go in today even. This is an exercise that you may be in the position where you can do right now, where you can go talk with your manager, supervisor, boss, and ask for a raise and say, I would like a raise because of X, Y, and Z. This is actually a very good time to do it because we're moving into the new year and the budget and everything else is going to be flexible and allowable for that come the new year potentially. So go in, talk with your supervisor, manager, boss, whoever makes those decisions, explain to them why you deserve a raise. And here's the kicker, not even the kicker, the important thing. Explain and communicate and illustrate why it is in their best interest to give you a raise. If you can do that, it's going to be very, very difficult for that individual not to want to give you a raise. So what would be in their best interest? Well, it gives you freedom. It gives you flexibility. It gives you maybe some clout that comes with a promotion that may allow you to invest in new things and build up the organization and build up the company. And these are all important things for the organization. So talk about what you have done well for the organization and why they're in a better position because you are at that company. I would be very, very careful of delivering any sort of ultimatums. Now, you might do that as a last effort resort if you've got something lined out already, but I'd be very, very careful about bluffing. And I've heard people do this. They'll go in, they'll say, hey, if I don't get a raise, then I'm going to leave and go work with this other company. And it's a bluff to get a raise. And then the company says, okay, well, go ahead and do that. Well, now you're in trouble and you got to backpedal out of that a little bit. That actually is a scenario that happened to me when I was very, very young. And I think my second or third job. And I asked for a raise that way. I said, if I don't get a raise, I'm going to have to leave. And my boss at the time said, okay, well, go ahead and leave. And I had to backpedal out of that situation and ended up working out. But I would be very, very careful of delivering ultimatums unless they're backed up. That's what it can't be a bluff. It's got to be legitimate. And that gives you power in the negotiating table as well. The other thing along the same lines, and again, we're still on point number 6, is potentially just starting a new business. How can you generate more money in your household? Can you sell a few items around the house? And if you do, then apply it to debt, which was point number 2, pay off that debt. These things all work together. If you have a yard sale or you sell some furniture or sell some things around the house that maybe you don't need, maybe you have a few more guns, as if that's a thing than you'd like. Maybe you sell a gun or two, whatever. You know what you can sell and what you don't want to sell. But if you'd use that, take that. Invest it back in yourself. Take that money and pay off debt. Take that money and invest it somewhere else, which we're going to get to here in a minute. But be very prudent. But there's opportunities to sell things around the house. There's opportunities to pick up some freelance work, to do some work off the side. There's also moonlighting, where you take what you're currently doing and assuming that your company is okay with this, that maybe you do some of the same work on the side. So you're not having to learn a new skill, but there's some side work that's in line with what you're already doing. That's a thought as well. But make sure, again, on that one, make sure your company knows so there's no conflict of interest there and your bases are covered. All right, number 7. Now, we've talked about paying off debt. We've talked about investing in yourself. We've talked about making more money meeting, budgeting, et cetera, et cetera. Now let's talk about investing. So number 1, just start putting money in the bank. That's the very first step. A lot of people will say, hey, how much money or where should I put my money? What's the best rate of return that you can get me? And my answer to that is, how much money are you saving? And a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, I'm not saving a thing. If you're not saving a dime, it doesn't really matter where you put it, because 100% return on zero is zero. It's nothing. So you need to learn how to set money aside. So I would get a separate account, potentially even a separate bank account in a separate bank, and start depositing money there on a weekly basis or every time you get paid. I make $2,000 or I make $5,000 or I make $10,000. Great. Take $200 or $500 or $1,000 and just have it automatically deposited into that bank account where you can wash your hands of it, not think about it. If you're not looking at it, you won't know it's there. And then one day you'll go back in a year or two and look at it and you'll have 12,000, 20, 30 grand in that account before you know it. So just get good at saving money. I don't even care if it's $20. $20 is infinitely better than zero. All right, $500 is better than 20. 1,000 is better than 500. But you'll get to that point, but you have to start. What a lot of people will say is they'll say, well, I can't save as much money as I'd like, so I'm just going to wait until I get to that point where I can save as much as I want. That's not how this works. That would be like saying, I don't want to go into the gym until I get in shape. You go to the gym to get into shape. You start investing with what you currently have so that you can build up to the day when you're investing how much you think you'd like to start investing. Do it now with regardless of how much money it is. I don't even care if it's $1. Do it now. Get in the habit. Build the systems in place. Have the infrastructure to be able to house those resources as you up your contribution levels, and you'll be in a much better position. Number 8. So number 7 was putting money in the bank. All right, you've got money in the bank. The debt's paid off. You're having a weekly meeting. Your wife is on board with what you're doing. You've developed new skills. You're getting paid more because you asked for a promotion or you got a raise or you started a new business or you went and worked with a new company. Now, what do? The first thing you do is you don't move into real estate, or you don't move into business, or you don't move into paintings or cars or exotics. It's not what you do. The first step in building wealth is to start channeling some of your resources, into a diversified, broadly invested, low turnover mutual fund. I'm I'm not going to give you specifics on what fund, but you want something that is low cost, that's low turnover, and that is broadly diversified, and you want to start putting money into there. Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of funds. I'm not even going to get into the specifics of, should I do a Roth IRA or a 401k or a simple IRA or a simplified employee pension or a 401k or just standard mutual funds? You need to figure out what it is you want to do, potentially talk with a financial advisor or potentially your advisor who helps with your employee retirement services. They will help you with that. But again, you want to look for low cost, low traded, low turnover, and highly diversified mutual funds. That is going to be your best route, and you're going to start channeling some money there outside of what you've already built in your bank account. That's step number, I guess you'd say 2 when it comes to building wealth. Step number 1 is just starting to put money in the bank. Then from there, now that you've paid off debt, you've learned valuable skills, you're getting paid more, you're having meetings with your wife, you've got money set aside in the bank account, you're funnel some money into your retirement plans or mutual funds. Now what do you do from there? Okay, now you can look into real estate. Now you can look into businesses, potentially maybe even some higher yield, higher risk investments that might come or present themselves because of the position that you're in. But you have to do this sequentially. You have to do this in order. If you don't do it in order, you're going to find yourself in a bad situation. I know people who have never saved a dime in their life, and they take a course on how to invest in real estate, and they buy the first property they see, and they lose their shirt because they haven't built up the skill set in order to be able to make those types of investments successful. So I'm not saying that those are things you shouldn't do. You should just do them in order of priority. And I just gave you the priority because that was step number, I believe that was number 9. Let me look here. Yeah, that's number 9. So 9 is to invest in real estate and business. And number 10, and I think this caps it all rather nicely, if I do say so myself, is you want to find and start communicating with and start befriending the most financially successful people that you can. I'm not saying that's the only people that should be in your circle. And I'm not even saying that if somebody isn't financially successful, they shouldn't be in your circle. I am saying that there should be very, very financially successful and wealthy people in your sphere of influence. If you don't have those people in your sphere of influence, you are missing a great opportunity to build tremendous levels of wealth and allow somebody else to walk you, to coach you through the process of building wealth in your own life. These are financial advisors. These are friends. These are people who have invested in real estate. These are people who are business owners. The more you get around these individuals, the more you will learn, the more you will grow, the more calculated risks that you'll take, the more equipped you will be to make these important financial investment decisions, and the better off that you're going to be financially. How do you do this? Just look at your inner circle and ask yourself, who is the wealthiest person that you know? Then get creative on how you can get introduced to that person and or begin to establish a deeper, more connected, meaningful relationship with this individual. Guys, what I want to say as we cap things off on those 10 points to getting your financial house in order is that you have to have the mindset for wealth. You have to want to have this, and also you have to want to do this the right way. If you want to get rich quick scheme or program, who knows, it might actually work. It's not sustainable, it's not replicatable, and more often than not, you're probably going to lose on that deal. The mindset is that I'm going to build wealth the correct way. I'm going to look for opportunities as they present themselves. I'm going to position myself by paying off debt, by having my meetings, doing my budgeting, putting money in the bank, building the habits. I'm going to position myself to take advantage of opportunities when they arise. I'm going to make prudent decisions. I'm going to learn from the best by having those friends. I'm going to avoid making the mistakes by, again, having those friends in my life. And I am committed in 2020 to building tremendous levels of wealth, because not that it's noble to be wealthy, although I will say wealth is often an indicator of adding value, which I believe is noble and virtuous, but in and of itself, it's not. but you have to have it into the mindset that you can be a more capable man if you are wealthy. You can invest in people. You can give back to charities. You can start organizations. You can deliver valuables and goods and services. You can have more experiences with your family. Life is just better. Again, it's a magnifier. Wealth and money is a magnifier of who you currently are. If you have noble intentions, wealth is just going to magnify those intentions. If you have less than credible and noble intentions, money's going to magnify the opportunities that you have to be immoral, to do things that we wouldn't consider ethical, potentially even, and are ultimately destructive to you, your well-being, and those around you as well. So there it is, guys. 2020 is the year of building wealth. I want to see you guys get raises, get promotions, get out of debt, start investing, start in serving your families, building new products and services and goods to offer to the market. And I believe if you follow these 10 steps, you will do that. If you have any additional steps, please leave those in the comments. If you're listening to this on YouTube or watching it on YouTube, rather. If you're not watching on YouTube, feel free to go over there and check it out, or hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at Ryan Michler. My last name is spelled Michler. Let's connect over there. The accounts are growing, and I'll make a post, and you can just comment on there with your number one tip for building wealth in 2020. All right, guys, I hope that helps. I hope that serves you. I'm excited to see where you guys take this advice and apply it in your lives and start building the wealth that you'd like to have and that will do you and those around you good. We'll be back on Tuesday for the interview show, which is Christmas week. So you guys are having a great vacation if that's the case, and that you have a great Christmas week. And we'll catch you then. Go out there, guys. Take action. Become the man you are meant to be.